people who are not participating in that process do not have a right to a child. And in fact, if it becomes that same-sex couples have rights to children, there's a disturbing trend that is happening in the EU right now, the European Union. I spoke with a consultant to the European Union just recently who speaks to them on this issue. He was raised in a lesbian home. He had a lesbian mother and a lesbian partner. He participated in the gay lifestyle for 13 years. He has since that time gotten married, becoming monogamous with his wife, and believes that marriage is for a man and a woman. And he has been consulting with the EU on the impact it has on children raised in these families. It is extremely difficult. If you've ever dealt with adoptive children, you know that no matter how much the adoptive parents love them, children still want to know their biological parents. It is their need to know their biological parents. They must know where they came from, who their roots are, who has walked before them, and how they fit in that world. And part of understanding their destiny and purpose in life is knowing who their biological parents are. Well, in the European Union, they have developed laws for same-sex parents that these children will never be able to find out who their biological parents are. And this young man, this man I was talking to, who was raised in this home, describes the effect of being raised in a home without a father, of never knowing the cues of how men are to act around women, how men are to respond to different situations, what it means to be a man. He deeply loved his mother. It wasn't that he didn't like his mother, but he was always handicapped in not knowing how to respond as a man to situations. And if we put children intentionally in homes where there are only a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, we are limiting them from knowing who their biological parents are. We're also limiting them in terms of their social development, of developing cues that a mother and a father give to their children on how to respond in values in society. So same-sex marriages are bad for children. Every significant social study that has been done in the last 10 years, and the two most significant ones that were released in 2012, speak to this question of are children that are raised by their biological heterosexual parents in a home versus children that have been raised in same-sex marriage homes. And in 13 out of 20 indicators, children raised in same-sex homes in the Regnerus study that was deeply questioned, had to pass 8 review boards, but at the end of that time period was proven that their methodologies were true and correct. That study affirms in a 20-year review of children raised in heterosexual homes by their biological parents versus children raised in same-sex homes, that the outcomes of same-sex children raised by same-sex parents in 13 of 20 indicators shows that there is a significant negative difference on the development of those children. Again, in terms of their likelihood to not finish school, to have emotional problems, to commit suicide, to go to prison, to be drug and alcohol abusers. We can go on and on. So there is a significant difference for children being raised in a two-parent biological home and in their by same-sex parents. And then lastly, I would just like to say this. Oftentimes we hear that, you know, because we are opposed to same-sex marriages, that somehow we are the equators of slavery, and that we are on the wrong side of history, and that we are haters, that sort of thing. Well, I want to tell you, first of all, that in terms of slavery, it was the church. It was the church in America that was speaking out against slavery. It was the church in Great Britain that led the charge to end slavery in Great Britain, and it was the church in America that was keeping the issue at the forefront. It was men like Charles Finley, the great evangelist, Jonathan Blanchard, the founder of Wheaton College. Those men were outspoken. There were hundreds of others that were. The real analogy in this issue to slavery is this. I was just sharing with you a few moments ago that the EU is concerned about the impact of children in same-sex marriage homes. What they are finding is that the same-sex unions in Europe have created baby manufacturing plants or farms, whatever you want to call them, particularly in the Ukraine and in the Soviet Union. and that children are being bought as property because they have a right to a child. These children are being bought as property, and they have no knowledge. They will never have a knowledge of who their biological parents are. And those children become the property of these couples. They're concerned about that impact. Now, the real analogy to slavery in the United States is this, is that in 1807, Thomas Jefferson signed legislation to stop the importation of slaves in the United States. And in doing that, slave owners realized we cannot sustain our present lifestyle. What are we going to do to develop new slaves for our plantations? So what they began to do, and which was extremely destructive on the African American family in the United States, was that they began to buy and sell slave children that were bred on their plantations to continue to provide workers for their plantations for the next 60 years until slavery was abolished as a result of the Civil War. This is the analogy to slavery. It is the buying and selling of children who will never know their parents, that are going to be torn and put into a family to never know who their biological family are. And it's not those of us who are standing for traditional marriage, it is those who are seeking same-sex marriage that are going to be use this method to continue their lifestyle, because it is impossible for them to have children in this lifestyle. So America, state of Illinois, we need to be clear to our state representatives that this is not an issue of two people loving each other. It is far more. Marriage is far more. It is a covenant between a man and a woman to be exclusively sexually for each other, to raise children, and to be the bedrock of the family in this nation. It is bad for children, and we are standing for truth. And I want to encourage you to contact your state representative and to let her know that she needs to vote no on this issue in Illinois. I'm going to ask Dave Nork if he wants to come up and share about a petition that we're going to have signed.
Thanks, Dan. Hello, Aurora! Hello! What are we here for? One man, one woman.
One man, one woman.
One man.
One woman.
One woman. Makes marriage. I'll tell you, this is not about two people. This is not about two people who love each other. This is about restructuring society.
Right.
This is not about equality. This is not about discrimination. This is not about love. This is about restructuring all of society. We have some resources for you today. We're going to give you. The first thing is this petition. Let me read a quote. Where's my paper? You going to read it later? No? Let me read a quote. This is from the highest office in the nation. This is what the president said we should do. Homosexual behavior is no longer partial equality. It's not about tolerance, but it's a recognition that the homosexual behavior lifestyle is wholly a part of the American family. Do you believe that?
No!
This is not about two people who love each other. This is about restructuring all of society. If it was about two people, you and I wouldn't be here today.
Right.
I had a fellow come up to me and said, "What do you care what I do in my bedroom?" I said, "Tim, I don't. I love you. I don't care what you do in your bedroom." Well, I really did. But I said, it's about you bringing in your lifestyle and teaching this 6-year-old that it's normal and he ought to participate in it. We have to get this picture in our mind. It's not about two people who love each other. It's about restructuring and teaching children that this behavior is normal. There's going to be a petition going around here. There's going to be 5 volunteers circulating. If you live in this district, we want you to sign this petition. And we're going to deliver this to Representative Stephanie Kifowit, requesting her to consider voting no against this bill. This is a life-changing issue for our culture. Thanks, Dan.
Okay,